Tonight, I'd like you to imagine something. Imagine that you wake up tomorrow morning, not in your own bed, but in a small medieval village somewhere in Europe. There is no phone waiting beside you, no notifications, no emails, no social media, no endless stream of opinions from people you've never met. The world around you is quiet, not because life is easy. Far from it. Life in the Middle Ages was often difficult, uncertain, and sometimes frightening. Yet there is a strange possibility that many medieval people spent far less time trapped inside their own thoughts than we do today. At first, that sounds impossible. After all, modern life is safer. We live longer. We have comforts that medieval kings could only dream of. And yet millions of people lie awake at night, replaying conversations, worrying about the future, and wondering whether they have chosen the right path. So tonight, let's explore a curious question. If medieval life was harder, why might medieval minds have been quieter? Chapter 1: The Modern Mind. As you sit quietly in our imaginary medieval village, there is something important to notice: the silence. Not just the silence around you, but the silence inside your mind. For most of human history, people did not carry the entire world with them every waking moment. They did not wake up and immediately learn what thousands of strangers were thinking. They did not compare their lives to carefully selected images of success. They did not spend hours scrolling through information that had absolutely no impact on their daily survival. Their world was smaller, and because their world was smaller, their attention was smaller too. Now imagine your average morning. Perhaps before your feet even touch the floor, you look at your phone, a message, an email, a notification, a headline, a reminder, another headline, another message, another thing demanding your attention. Before breakfast, your brain may already have processed more information than a medieval villager would encounter in an entire week. And yet our brains are still running on ancient hardware. The human brain did not evolve for endless streams of information. It evolved for small groups, small communities, immediate problems, immediate solutions. For most of history, if something worried you, it was probably standing directly in front of you: a failed harvest, a sick animal, a damaged roof, a harsh winter approaching. These problems were serious, sometimes extremely serious, but they were visible. They were concrete. You could point to them, you could talk about them, you could work on them. Many of the worries that fill modern minds are different. They are abstract, invisible, unfinished, endless. Will I be successful enough? Will people respect me? Am I falling behind? Did I make the right choice? Should I have chosen another career, another city, another relationship, another life? The modern mind spends an enormous amount of energy thinking about possibilities, not realities, possibilities, and possibilities have no natural ending. That is one of the hidden dangers of overthinking. A real problem eventually arrives, but an imagined problem can live forever. A medieval villager might worry about surviving the winter. A modern person can worry about 20 different futures before lunch. One future where things go wrong, one future where people judge them, one future where they fail, one future where they disappoint themselves, and another, and another, and another. The strange thing is that many of these futures never happen, yet the brain responds as if they are already real. This is one reason why lying awake at night feels so exhausting. The body is in bed, but the mind is traveling across conversations, across memories, across possibilities, and while our imaginary villager sleeps beneath a simple wooden roof, many of us lie awake beneath much safer roofs, thinking far more dangerous thoughts. Thoughts that cannot be solved, thoughts that cannot be touched, thoughts that simply circle, again and again and again. Perhaps that is why so many people find themselves awake at 2 a.m, not because they are in danger, but because their minds have forgotten the difference between possibility and reality. And as we continue our journey through medieval Europe, we begin to discover something surprising. The people who lived here faced hardships we can barely imagine, but they may also have been protected from something that has become deeply familiar to modern life: the endless noise of too many thoughts. Chapter 2. A Mind Built for Simpler Worlds. Take a moment and imagine that you are waking up in a small village somewhere in medieval Europe. Not in a castle, not as a king, not as a knight, just an ordinary person. A farmer, a baker, a shepherd, someone whose name would never appear in a history book. The sun has not risen yet. The room is cold. There is no alarm clock beside your bed, no notifications waiting for you, no messages, no news, no glowing screen asking for your attention, only darkness and the distant sound of animals outside. Slowly, you sit up. The day has already begun, not because a schedule tells you so, but because life itself is waiting. The fire needs tending, the animals need feeding, the water must be carried, bread must be baked, fields must be worked. There is always something to do, and almost all of it exists directly in front of you. This is important, because most of the challenges faced by medieval people were visible, physical, immediate. If the roof leaked, you repaired the roof. If the cow was sick, you cared for the cow. If winter was coming, you gathered wood. Life was difficult, often brutally difficult. But the problems themselves were usually clear. There was very little uncertainty about what required your attention. The modern world is different. Many of our concerns exist only inside the imagination. But for our medieval villager, attention was constantly pulled toward the real world, toward people, toward weather, toward work, toward survival. And because of that, the mind spent far less time wandering into distant futures. Of course, medieval people still worried. They worried about disease, about harvests, about war, about hunger, about losing loved ones. They were not free from fear, but their fears were usually connected to something tangible, something they could point to, something they could see. Modern anxiety often has no shape, no location, no boundary. It can follow you into every room, every conversation, every quiet moment. But our villagers' attention rarely had that luxury. The world demanded presence, the fields demanded presence, the animals demanded presence, the seasons demanded presence, and perhaps without realizing it, that constant connection to immediate reality protected the mind from something many of us know very well, the endless spiral of overthinking, because it is difficult to endlessly analyze 20 possible futures when today's work still needs to be done. And so, as the first light begins to appear above the village, our villager steps outside. The air is cold, the ground is damp, smoke rises from distant chimneys. Another ordinary day is beginning, and hidden within that ordinary day may be an important lesson about the psychology of attention, one that many modern minds have forgotten. Chapter 3. The Village Knew Your Name. Take a moment and imagine walking through a medieval village. The path is muddy. The air smells faintly of wood smoke. A dog barks somewhere in the distance. You pass the same cottages, the same people, the same fields, day after day, year after year. Everyone knows who you are, and you know who they are. The blacksmith knows your family. The baker knows your family. The farmer knows your family. In many cases, their parents knew your parents, and their grandparents knew your grandparents. For most of human history, people lived inside communities that were remarkably small. A village might contain only a few hundred people, sometimes even fewer. You would likely spend your entire life surrounded by many of the same faces. There were advantages to this, and there were disadvantages too. Privacy was rare, reputation mattered, the stakes could be difficult to escape. But there was also something else, something many modern societies quietly lost: a sense of belonging. Whether people liked each other or not, they were connected. Their lives overlapped, their problems overlapped, their futures overlapped. When disaster struck one family, others often felt the consequences as well. When harvests failed, everyone noticed. When celebrations happened, everyone participated. The individual existed, but the community came first. Today, many people can go days without speaking to their neighbors. Some do not even know their names. We live surrounded by more people than ever before, yet loneliness has become one of the defining experiences of modern life. It is a strange paradox. The medieval villager lived among fewer people, but often experienced stronger social bonds. The modern person lives among millions and can still feel completely alone. Of course, medieval life was far from perfect. Communities could be harsh, judgmental, unforgiving, social expectations were powerful, and freedom was often limited. But humans evolved inside tribes, inside villages, inside groups where people depended on one another. The human brain still remembers that world, even if modern life no longer resembles it. Perhaps this is one reason why loneliness feels so painful. It is not merely an emotion, it may be an ancient alarm system, a signal from a brain that evolved to survive together, not alone. As the evening settles over the village, warm candlelight begins to glow behind small windows. Families gather around simple meals, neighbors exchange stories, children listen to voices they know. The village slowly becomes quiet, and for a brief moment, you begin to notice something. These people possessed very little by modern standards, yet many of them had something increasingly difficult to find today. Chapter 4. The Comparison Trap. Take a moment and imagine walking through that same medieval village once more. You know the baker. You know the blacksmith. You know the farmer. You know who has a larger house. You know who has fewer chickens. You know who owns more land. Human beings have always compared themselves to others. This is not a modern invention. Comparison is ancient. The human brain evolved to pay attention to status, because status often influenced survival. Higher status could mean more resources, more protection, more opportunities, more influence. In small communities, everyone understood roughly where they stood. The village was small, the social ladder was visible, and there were limits. The baker did not compare himself to a merchant living 500 miles away. The shepherd did not compare herself to a queen. Most people compared themselves only to those around them, the people they actually knew, the people they actually met. But modern life changed something the human brain never evolved to handle. For the first time in history, comparison became infinite. Today, a single morning can expose you to thousands of lives, thousands of faces, thousands of achievements, thousands of carefully edited success stories. The brain sees them all, even when it knows they are incomplete. A stranger buys a beautiful house. Someone else launches a successful business. Someone else gets married. Someone else travels the world. Someone else appears happier, healthier, wealthier, more successful. And the ancient comparison system quietly begins to work, without asking permission, without waiting for evidence, without considering context. The strange thing is that social media often shows us the rewards, without showing us the costs, the victory without the struggle, the outcome without the uncertainty, the highlight without the ordinary days, and so the brain begins comparing its behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's highlights. This is a game nobody can win, because there will always be another person, another success story, another achievement, another life that appears better from a distance. The medieval villager could compare himself to perhaps a few dozen people. The modern person can compare themselves to millions every single day, and yet, the ancient brain continues doing exactly what it evolved to do, measuring, ranking, comparing, searching for its place within the group, even when the group has become impossibly large. As evening settles once again, we begin to see that many modern struggles are not signs of weakness, they are ancient instincts, operating in a world that changed faster than the brain could adapt. And perhaps nowhere is this more visible than in our relationship with uncertainty itself. Chapter 5. Why the Future Never Stops Calling. Imagine once again. Our medieval villager. Tomorrow matters. Next winter matters. The next harvest matters. But most of life remains rooted in the present. The future exists, yet it feels distant, concrete, limited, predictable in its unpredictability. Modern life feels different. The future now follows us everywhere. It lives inside calendars, deadlines, notifications, retirement plans, career plans, financial goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, backup plans, contingency plans, alternative plans. The modern world rewards long-term thinking, and in many ways that is a wonderful thing, but there is a hidden cost. The human brain becomes trapped between two worlds. The body remains in the present, but the mind constantly travels into tomorrow. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I choose incorrectly? What if I miss an opportunity? What if something bad happens? The brain treats many of these possibilities as if they are real experiences, even though they exist only in imagination. This creates a strange burden. A person can experience stress from events that never occur, fear from situations that never arrive, exhaustion from problems that never become real. And because imagined futures have no natural ending, the mind can keep revisiting them forever. A real storm eventually passes, an imagined storm can last for years. This is why so many people find themselves lying awake at night, not solving problems, but rehearsing possibilities. The mind believes it is preparing, protecting, predicting, but often it is simply wandering, searching for certainty in a future that cannot be known. Our medieval villager understood something modern life often hides. Uncertainty is not a flaw in life. It is part of life. The harvest may fail, the weather may change, the future may surprise us, and yet, the sun still rises, the work still begins, the day still unfolds. Perhaps the goal was never to eliminate uncertainty. Perhaps the goal was learning how to live alongside it. And as darkness settles over the village once more, we begin to discover something unexpected. The people of the past were not calmer because life was easier. They were calmer because much of their attention remained anchored to the reality directly in front of them, and that may be one of the most important lessons they still have to teach us. Chapter 6. The Lost Art of Being Bored. Imagine sitting beside a small fire. Nothing is happening, no news is arriving, no messages are waiting, no entertainment is available, no endless stream of information competes for your attention. Just silence. For most of human history, this was completely normal. Periods of stillness were unavoidable. People walked long distances, worked repetitive tasks, watched animals graze, mended tools, sat beside fires, waited for seasons to change, waited for weather to improve, waited for bread to bake, waited for life to unfold. The mind experienced countless moments with nothing to consume, nothing to scroll, nothing to watch, nothing to click. Modern life rarely allows such moments. The instant boredom appears, something quickly arrives to remove it. A phone, a screen, a video, a notification, a headline, a message, an update, something, anything. The result is subtle, yet powerful. Many people now experience very little true boredom, and that matters, because boredom once served an important purpose. It created space, space for reflection, space for memory, space for imagination, space for recovery. The brain was never designed to remain constantly stimulated. Like any system, it requires periods of rest, periods of quiet, periods where nothing much happens. Without those periods, attention becomes fragmented, thoughts become noisier, rest becomes more difficult, and sleep often suffers. The medieval villager may have endured hardships we can barely imagine, but they also encountered something modern life quietly erased: mental emptiness, not emptiness as loneliness, emptiness as space, a pause between thoughts, a pause between demands, a pause between obligations. Modern life often fears emptiness, yet the human brain may need it. Some of our clearest thoughts emerge during moments of stillness, not activity, not stimulation, stillness. Perhaps this is why people often discover solutions while walking, or showering, or sitting quietly with no particular goal. The mind finally has room to breathe. As darkness settles over the village, the fire crackles softly. Nothing urgent is happening. No one is demanding attention. No one is competing for attention. For a brief moment, the mind is allowed to simply exist, and perhaps that simple experience has become far more valuable than we realize. Chapter 7. The night sky they never lost. Now, lift your eyes toward the sky. Our villager does this almost every evening. There are no street lights, no illuminated billboards, no glowing office towers, no phone screens, no artificial glow stretching across the horizon. Only darkness. And above that darkness, stars, thousands of them, perhaps tens of thousands. The night sky appears enormous, ancient, endless. For most of human history, people lived beneath this sky every night. Children grew up learning constellations. Farmers watched seasons through the stars. Travelers navigated by them, stories were built around them, myths emerged from them. The night sky was not something special. It was simply part of life. Modern people rarely see the same sky. Light pollution covers much of the world. Many children grow up never experiencing true darkness, never seeing the Milky Way, never realizing how many stars exist above them. And perhaps something subtle was lost, because the night sky does something unusual to the human mind. It shrinks the ego. It places daily worries into perspective. It reminds us that we are part of something larger. larger than careers, larger than deadlines, larger than social status, larger than tomorrow's problems. The stars do not care about your unread emails. They do not care about quarterly targets. They do not care about social media. They simply exist. Silent, patient, unchanging. For thousands of years, human beings looked upward and felt the same sensation. Wonder, a feeling difficult to describe. A feeling somewhere between humility and curiosity. The medieval villager experienced this regularly. Not because they searched for it, but because it surrounded them. Perhaps modern life became so busy that we stopped looking up, stopped noticing, stopped remembering how small our worries can appear when viewed from a greater distance. As the village grows quiet, the last candles fade, the final conversations end, doors close, windows darken, the stars remain, watching silently above the sleeping world. And for the first time tonight, our journey begins to approach its end. Because hidden within all these centuries, all these villages, all these forgotten lives is a simple lesson, one that modern minds may desperately need to hear. Chapter 8. What medieval life can still teach us about peace of mind. And now, our journey through medieval Europe begins to come to an end. We have walked through quiet villages, sat beside small fires, watched farmers rise before sunrise, shared meals beneath candlelight, looked upward into dark skies filled with stars, and along the way, we discovered something unexpected. The people of the past were not wiser than we are. They were not stronger. They were not happier in every way. Life was often difficult, sometimes frightening, sometimes brutally unfair. Many of the comforts we enjoy today would have seemed miraculous to them. Modern medicine, clean water, heating, electricity, instant communication, longer lives, safer lives. In countless ways, we are fortunate beyond anything they could have imagined. And yet, there is still something worth learning from them. Not because they lived better, but because they lived differently. The modern world has become extraordinarily good at capturing attention. Every day, thousands of voices compete for a place inside the mind. Advertisements, news, messages, notifications, opinions, predictions, warnings, possibilities. The brain rarely rests, it rarely becomes still, it rarely encounters silence. Our villager lived inside a world with fewer choices, fewer opportunities, fewer distractions, and because of that, much of their attention remained connected to reality itself. The weather, the seasons, the village, the work, the people standing directly in front of them. The present moment was difficult to escape. For us, the opposite is often true. The present moment can be difficult to enter. The body remains here, but the mind travels elsewhere. Tomorrow, next month, 5 years from now, a conversation from last week, a mistake from 10 years ago, an imaginary future, an imaginary disaster, an imaginary version of ourselves. The mind wanders endlessly, and often suffers because of it. Perhaps peace of mind was never about controlling every thought. Perhaps it begins by gently returning attention to what is real, to what is here, to what is happening now, not tomorrow, not next year, now, the chair beneath you, the room around you, the sound of your breathing, the weight of your body resting, simple things, ordinary things, the kinds of things our villager would have noticed every day. Perhaps that is the hidden lesson, not that we should return to the past, but that we should remember what the past can teach us. The importance of presence, the importance of community, the importance of stillness, the importance of limits, the importance of allowing some questions to remain unanswered, because not every uncertainty can be solved, not every possibility needs to be explored, not every thought deserves attention. Sometimes, the wisest thing the mind can do is let a thought pass, without following it, without fighting it, without becoming it. As the night deepens, our village is silent now. The fires have faded, the windows are dark, the roads are empty. Only the stars remain, watching quietly above sleeping rooftops, the same stars that watched over countless generations before us, generations who worried, hoped, loved, struggled, and eventually rested, just as we do. And perhaps that realization itself is comforting. You do not need to solve everything tonight. You do not need to predict every future. You do not need to carry every possibility. The world will continue turning. Morning will eventually arrive, and for now, it is enough simply to be here, breathing, resting, existing, as human beings have done for thousands of years, beneath the same sky, beneath the same stars. Good night, and thank you for joining me on this journey through the psychology of the medieval mind.